This is the Michael Batson Show. Well, the Nuggets trounced the Miami Heat 109-94. And it was just not a game. From the start, it was the Heat came out flat, even though they had home court advantage. At halftime, they didn't come out and were strong. And in the fourth quarter, when it still was a 12, 13-point game, they didn't show any resiliency like they usually do or any fight to get back in the game. You saw the stat. We've all seen it. The Heat are really good in the fourth quarter. A really good team that fights and claws back. They didn't do any of that. They seemed flat. They seemed tired. They seemed dead out of the water. And in fairness, I think the Nuggets had a way better game plan than they did in Game 2. Look, I think the whole media, most fans caught up to what worked when the Heat won, and they beat the Nuggets pretty good in their home court to tie the series. Jokic had 42, right? And that's great. But if you look at statistics, or if you're a fan, you know that if Jokic scores and dominates, that's not the winning formula. It looks good, but that's not the winning formula. Because what he is he's a really good passer and a really good facilitator. And when the double team comes, he just throws it back out. And he finds open man. And although he did have 42 points in Game 2, and that's great, he only had 4 assists. And that's the best part of his game. That's what makes him unlike any center we have today and one of the great centers in the world and in the NBA that we've ever seen. He can pass. And he's a team player. He doesn't care as much about scoring as getting the assists, right? So he had 42 in Game 2, and the Heat were like, sure, you can have that, because we've seen the stats. We know how you play. If you get your points, that means Jamal Murray won't get his. He only had 18. That means a guy like Michael Porter, who could shoot the living hell out of a shot and a three-pointer, could only take 2 3-pointers and only make one of them. That means a guy like KCP, who's a veteran, Caldwell Pope, could only have 6 points, and that means a center like Gordon could get the ball a limited amount of times. And the role players in NBA playoffs are clutch, right? And they are needed. Heat knows it, right? Jimmy and Bam, which we'll get to in a sec, are good, but they need role players. Everybody does. When you're playing this much, when you have this many games in a row in the NBA Finals, once you get to those finals, you can't rely on one player. And throughout the season, the Denver Nuggets have not just relied on Jokic. They've relied on his passing, not just his scoring. And that means Murray could get more touches, and Porter could get more touches, and KCP and Gordon and those guys. So they came in with a different mindset. And I give Jokic a lot of credit because he could have scored 42 again tonight easily. If he wants to, he could score 42 every game. But he passed, so he didn't score 42. He scored 32. But he had a triple-double in like Game 2. He had 10 assists, he had lots of rebounds, and that meant guys like Jamal Murray, who only touched the ball limited amounts, and guys like that would get involved. And it worked. Jamal Murray actually had more points than Jokic. Jokic shared the ball, and Jamal Murray got the points. Jamal Murray had 36. And we could act like it's a one-man team and Jokic is carrying it, but the success also depends on Jamal Murray. And he won't get the ball unless Jokic will pass to him. Down low, pass back outside, Jamal Murray will be open for the 2 or the 3. Their pick-and-roll game is strong too, the best in the business. That also relies on Jokic's ability to pass, dump it off, and be unselfish. So, Jokic, he could have had 42. He had it in Game 2. We saw that doesn't work because that's not the best part of my game. My teammates can't get involved. So we came back. Mike Malone came back with a different mindset, and he played a lot better, and his teammates did too. And they feed off him. So Murray had 36. Michael Porter took more three-point shots, and it's not that deep of a team the Nuggets have, but Jamal Murray needs to touch the ball, and the only way that is if Nikola Jokic is unselfish and passes the ball. Once he gets a double, He did it in Game 3. I think that's one of the reasons that the Nuggets trounced the Miami Heat, because that's the only way they have to stop the Nuggets on defense. They could just let Jokic score, and that's great, but they could then bring double and bring help on guys like Murray and Porter in the corner for three-pointers. If Jokic passes it, and he doesn't just look to score every time, then that means one-on-one matchups, and you find them, right? And you find the mismatches, like Aaron Gordon on Duncan Robinson, and Jamal Murray on Gabe Vincent, right? Those are mismatches. That's what happens when Nikola Jokic passes the ball. So that's one thing that went really well. The second thing is that Miami gets a lot off their role players. They are not a team that just does it all with one or two guys. Nuggets are good, and Nuggets have some good role players, but it's a lot of Jokic and it's a lot of Murray, right? Murray and Jokic, they, I think, assisted or passed on 60 of the 64 attempts. That means every shot that went in, they either assisted on that play or scored on that play. The Heat aren't like that. Bam and Jimmy are good, but Jimmy's the closer. And Bam is good, but he's not a superstar. He struggles inside. He's not a great shooter. He's a good defender. He's a good all-around player, but he won't get you 30 a game. So Jimmy Butler played good. He had 22 or 28, and Bam had 22. And that's good if the bench and the role players are playing good as always if you're in Miami. But they weren't. They were not. Vincent, who had been lighting it up this postseason, playing, I think, one of the best, one of the best single-hand players to play this playoff, I think, all year. And if he was a bigger name, he would get more recognition for it. But he's not. But he is playing his ass off. All three series, he's been really good off the bench. Really good. Stepping in for Tyler Hero, playing with guys like Jimmy Butler. He's unselfish. He only had 7 points. Max Strus, who's their three-point shooter, and with this team that's not that deep and not as talented, he's one of their better players, the undrafted out of Marquette. He only made 1 3. He only shot 3 3-pointers. This is the second game in a row where he has struggled. In the last two, he is 2 for 12 on 3-pointers. And then you have Caleb Martin, who have been basically a plug-and-play guy to give electricity and give momentum to. He only had 10 points, and he didn't play that much, right? And I say, and it's true, that for the Heat to win the game, their role players have to be the stars. It can't be Jimmy and Bam, right? Because Bam and Jimmy could be good, but Bam and Jimmy can't just win the game. It's not like on the other side with Jamal Murray and Jokic. So you'd rather have the backups and the role players play really good and Jimmy and Bam just play good, but it didn't happen. Jimmy and Bam were trying to do too much, I think. I think they're taking too much shots, and I think just in total, the bench players and the role players in Miami that give them energy, give them momentum, give them a lot of help, just were not there. Vincent wasn't making shots. Strus wasn't making shots. Duncan Robinson didn't play a lot. Zeller didn't play a lot. You had Caleb Martin, again, who only had 10. The bench just didn't come in handy. So I think I give a lot of credit to Mike Malone. He put in a really good system and a really good game plan. I give a lot of credit to Jokic. He could have said, no, I want my 45, right? I don't care. It's fine if we don't win, but I want my 45. He didn't say that. He said, sure, I'll help the team out. He went from scoring easily 45 to scoring 32, but giving guys like Jamal Murray a chance. And then I'm let down, and no wonder Miami didn't win is because their bench didn't play good. And for them to win one of these games, or any games in these series or versus Celtics, their bench has to play amazing. Caleb Martin and Max Strus were amazing versus Celtics. Gabe Vincent was amazing versus the Knicks. In Game 4, or Game 3 of the NBA Finals, the bench didn't show up. So it's not surprising because the two keys to the game for Miami on offense and defense. Offense, Caleb Martin and Max Strus have to cook, right? And Bam has to be, I think, better than Jimmy Butler. Neither of those three things happened. And then for Miami on defense, you had to make Jokic a scorer, not a passer, that's hard to do when he wants to pass because he's such an unselfish player. So I think that Denver found a winning formula. I think Miami is in trouble because that was their game to really get ahead. And now they are, I think, starving off elimination. And, they are really close to being eliminated. And basically are if they lose Friday at home. Denver leads the series 2-1. We'll have more about Game 4 coming up on the show. That's all I have to say about that. But hell of a game plan by Mike Malone. Hell of a sequence by Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. And there's a lot of questions right now in South Beach of how they're going to pull 3 more games out of their you-know-whats to win the NBA Finals.